This video is going to focus on how to prepare the body to get into King Pigeon pose. King Pigeon has a lot going on. So before I even try to get into the pose, I need to make sure that all of my body parts are warmed up. The first thing I want to make sure that I'm doing is warming up my hips, giving myself some stretching, some different kinds of movement, and some mobility in the hips to get them ready to move into that King Pigeon pose. The second thing that I want to make sure that I work on is making sure that my thighs are warm and limber. King Pigeon pose requires not only being in pigeon in the front, but the back leg coming up. And I need to make sure that my quads are ready to do that stretch. Another thing that King Pigeon has going on is that it's got a back bend. Okay, so I want to make sure that my back bends are feeling pretty good before I try to move into King Pigeon. So let's get it started. Okay. The first thing I want to do is warm up my spine. I want to move my spine in 3 or 4 different ways to make sure that I am, going in all the different directions. I want to warm up my hips to make sure that they're feeling comfortable and good. And I can start by doing this in a seated pose. So I'm going to come to a comfortable seat here and just going to bring my shoulders up and back so that I have a nice straight spine. I want to focus on making sure that my sits bones are directly underneath me. So I'm going to grab the fleshy part of my glutes and pull it back. That's going to create a bit of an anterior tilt of my hips so that my tailbone and the top of my head are in a nice big straight line. Start like this. And from here, let's do some seated cat-cows. So on my inhale, I'm going to look up. I'm going to bend, a little back bend here because we're after a long day. And then on my exhale, I'm going to curl the back. Seated cat-cow. So inhale, we're going to do your back bend, looking up. And exhale, curl the spine. We'll do another one of those. Okay, that's moving the spine in one direction. I want to move the spine in 3 more directions because the spine needs to be nice and mobile. So on my next breath, I'm going to plant my left arm. This is left, right to you, perhaps if you're mirroring. Inhale, right arm comes up. Exhale, we're going to side bend. Try not to strain the neck here. Try not to crunch the bottom side, the left side, whatever side's down. Try not to crunch that. I bet you this is getting funky. I wonder if I should move this. I'm going to come back up. I'm going to put this in the middle. Let's see. All right, let's do it on the other side. Inhale, left arm comes up, leaning over the right side body. Try not to crunch into that right side body, but open. And when we're doing this, we don't want to lean forward. We want to pull our chest open so that the shoulder is stacked over the other shoulder. Nice. Now I want to do side to side. And we can do some simple twisting because I haven't really warmed up my hips yet. What I'm going to do is just take my left arm, put it behind me, and I'm going to take my right arm reaching up and down, and I'm just going to put my right arm over my left thigh and just simple twist. You don't have to sit in a specific position for this. Twisting is twisting. And this is just the first twist I'm doing, so we need to warm it up anyway. Inhale to bring it back. Exhale, twist to the other side. and inhale to bring it back. We're going to do butterfly pose. All right. So in butterfly, we can bring our feet together, and we just want to gently push the thighs open. Don't push too hard here because this is your first time doing butterfly after a long day at work or whatever it is for you. Just gently let gravity pull your knees toward the ground. After a few breaths, if you want to just flap the knees, flap the butterfly wings, feel free to do that. Find some stillness here. And let's do sort of like a seated tree pose where we straighten one leg and then the other foot comes to the inside of the thigh. So I've got my left leg straight here and my right foot is the inside of my left thigh. Bring it as close up as you want to. The closer you bring to the inner thigh, the more flexion you're going to need in your hip. So do what feels good here. For here, I can just sit like this for a moment. And when I feel ready, I can turn so that my body is facing the long leg and bend a little bit. So here what I'm doing is I'm stretching out this part, and I'm stretching out all of that right side of my back and down into my hip flexor and into my glute. And then on the other side, I've got a little bit of compression, but I'm stretching out my hamstring, which also feels really, really good. Well, let's switch sides. How that feels like that. Now be careful of the knee. I just noticed a little twinge in my knee, so I'm actually going to bring that foot out a little bit because I don't want to hurt myself here. My right hip, which is the leg that's extended right now, is often in pain. I've got some chronic pain issues in this one, so I am going to be really, really careful when I'm working with this one. Please honor your body. If you feel pain, you need to pull back out of that pose. So right here, my foot is not as far up on my inner thigh as the other one because I'm trying to protect that knee, and if it's causing me pain, I don't want to do it. So here I'm going to take a nice big breath in. On the exhale, I'm going to twist to face my straight leg and bend just a bit here. I like to sometimes grab the back of the calf, or if you want to grab the toes, grab the foot, grab the calf, grab the knee, whatever feels good for you here. The further down the leg I grab, the more stretch I get in the left side of my back here though. Don't forget to breathe. Come on back up. All right. From here, I want to move into deer pose or 90-90. So when I'm doing deer pose, I'm going to move to the other side again. I'm going to bring my right leg in front of me so that it is about 90 degrees. All right. You can see that a little bit better. My left leg, I'm going to bring behind me 90 degrees the other direction. So what I have here is my left front thigh is parallel to the long edge of the mat in the front of me. my left calf and shin is parallel to the short edge there. Alternately, my right thigh is parallel to the short edge on the right hand side, and my right shin, I get left and right mixed up, is going to be parallel to the long edge of my mat in the front. So this is deer pose 90-90. Be careful right here. I'm feeling some tension in this hip, so I'm just going to be super gentle about it. You can sit like this. Now, if this is too much to be pushing it back like this, bring it forward a little bit. That's okay. It doesn't have to be exactly 90 degrees. What you're looking at is really releasing the tension that you're holding in your hips and your psoas muscle. Don't push it because you're going to end up injuring yourself. Nice straight spine here, so don't hunch, right? Shoulders up and back. We want a nice straight spine in almost everything we do here in yoga. Feels really nice. You can sit like this, let gravity do its work, let breaths come, and take your time here. If it feels good, and only if it feels good, we're going to do a forward fold over the front leg. Big inhale, and an exhale, you're just folding forward. You can put your elbows down. You can come down to some blocks if that's easier for you. Elbows down, or to a bolster, whatever feels good, or you can just reach forward and bend as far as you want to go here. Sitting here is going to be similar to pigeon pose, with just a little bit less tension on that front joint. And inhale to come back up here. Carefully, carefully, bring the front foot around. Maybe you want to shake it out a little bit. Sometimes that feels good. And we're going to bring the left foot into the front and the right foot around the back. Set yourself up so that you're comfortable and you're not leaning too far to one side. This one here. Forward. All right. Now, as I said, my right hip is often in pain. And so again, I'm being really, really careful about the placement of my hip, and I'm not pushing. I'm not pushing into this pose at all. I'm letting gravity do what gravity's going to do. Nice straight spine. I got stuff in the way. That's okay though. No biggie. I just noticed that I was flexing my my glutes and my quad in the front here because I'm really scared of hurting myself. I notice that I don't sink into poses as deeply as I could or as I want to when I'm scared of hurting myself and I tense things up. And that's actually sometimes when pain can start. It is important to activate certain muscle groups when you're doing things, especially like you want to activate your quads when you're trying to protect your knee in a certain type of pose. In this pose, I don't want it to be too terribly active. I want to make sure that I'm still maintaining a nice straight spine and I'm not dumping into one side or the other, and I'm not putting too much undue pressure on the open hip in the back here, but I don't need to tense those muscles and I don't need to tense my glutes. Be aware of what your muscles are doing when you're in poses like this. If you feel ready, take a nice big breath in and just go ahead and fold over your front leg. You can come down again to your elbows, to some blocks, to a bolster. You can put the hands down and just come down as far as it feels good. And we'll sit here for a few more breaths. Just really sink into that. You know, as I'm sinking into this pose and feeling it feels really juicy in my front hip here, I'm really enjoying it. I think about all of the time and energy I've spent in my life being worried about what my stomach looks like when I sit and bend over. It's pretty natural to have a little bit of jiggle on the belly. And I definitely have some. I've had 2 kids. I am experiencing perimenopause, which makes it really difficult for me to regulate my body weight. And, you know, I just finally, in my mid 40s, I'm finally ready to let that go. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. I'm not too worried that you all are seeing my belly jiggle as as I fold over or as I do work, because the body that I have is actually so powerful, and it has brought me through, you know, everything in my life. It's literally carried me through everything that I've ever been through, which is no small thing. So I have to take a step back sometimes when I start being overly critical and start honoring my body and honoring what it can do for me and how powerful it actually is, and not worrying so much about living up to a beauty standard that's actually impossible. Anyway, that's my 2 cents when I'm sitting in this pose. Let's come on back up. And gently bring the right leg back out front. Stretch out that left leg. Give yourself a little shake. All right. So I said in order to get into King Pigeon, we need to warm up the spine. We need to warm up the hips, and we need to work on our quads. So let's just do a nice, simple quad stretch here. So facing forward, we're going to keep the right leg straight. Left leg is going to come behind you into like a half saddle pose right here. So for this one, you can tuck the foot behind you so that the top of your foot is on the floor. If you flex the foot, you are actually putting different kind of pressure on your knee. And when I flex my foot, I can feel it up in my hip, and I don't want the tension in my hip here. So I'm going to tuck the foot under and put the top of my foot on the bottom, on the floor. All right. So it can be just as simple as this. Be careful here. I often get cramps in my feet, and currently my foot is cramping up. So I am actually going to flex my foot for a moment. Take the time that you need and do what your body wants to do. Try that again. And just nice and straight. And we're kind of just stretching out that quad a little bit. And straighten that out. Stay in the pose if you like. My toe keeps cramping up. I have, you're going to hear all sorts of things. I have gnarly feet. I've got bunions on both of my feet, and they often cramp when I put them in positions that they don't like. We're going to do the same thing on the right. So I'm going to bring the right leg back. Okay. I want to sort of move so that my left sit bone is kind of more on the floor. And here I'm feeling a better stretch in my thigh. Be careful with saddle or half saddle, because this can actually be really hard on the knees. Don't sit in this if it doesn't feel good. Now, for my girlies that have thicker thighs and big calves like me, girlies, guys, and theys, be careful that this doesn't put too much pressure on your ankle and on your knee, because when you have thick thighs like this, you actually have to have more flexion in your knee to do the stretch. So be careful with that. I don't fully enjoy saddle pose. I don't even really enjoy half saddle, but I do want to open up my quads, and this is a really good one to start with. All right, my body's done with this. Let's go here. Give my feet a little shake. Okay, we're going to continue working on opening up hips and stretching out our quads and our back. We're going to move into tabletop. So in your tabletop, make sure that your knees are just about hip distance apart. You want to try and stack your hips over your knees. Feet can come behind you. Wrists. Okay, so what you want to do here is I want you to turn your wrist outward so that your elbow pits are facing forward, and then turn it slightly more open so that your pointer finger is facing forward, so that your elbows, the soft fleshy part of your elbow, is facing forward. Okay, spread your fingers nice and wide. So I'm going to start like this, so that my elbow pits forward. I'm going to bring it, point my pointer finger. This sets you up nicely for things like chaturanga, and it's going to give you that ability to hinge and bend down like this. For right now, we're going to stay in tabletop, and I'm just going to do a couple of cat-cows here. So we're going to push the tailbone up, look up, do your nice back bend on an inhale. And then an exhale, we're going to curl the spine, tuck the tailbone, and look between the legs. Inhale, we're going to do our cow. And exhale into our cat. Inhale, cow again. And exhale, cat. Find some movement here if that feels good to you. One more. Inhale, cow. And exhale, let's do our cat. All right, we're going to work on the hips a little bit more. So what we're going to do is first, actually, I like to start on the right always. I'm going to bring my right leg up, okay, bend the knee, and I am going to do some hip circles. I'm going to start by going out, down, and then back up. Hinging out, down, and back up. One more, out, down, and back up. This is actually really great for strengthening your hip muscles as well, and muscles around your hip joint. All right, let's go the other direction. We're going to go down, out, and up. Down, out, and up. Do you notice when I go up, I'm doing a bit of a back bend here too. Down, out, and up. Okay, let's come back here. That leg is feeling fairly limber and warmed up. So what I'm going to do now is still with my left leg planted, I'm going to bring my right leg out. I'm going to bring my left arm out into a bird dog. Ooh, keep your balance. And here I'm going to reach behind me, curl my right foot, grab the foot with my left hand, and push. This is tiger pose. Be careful with this one. You want to make sure that you are not putting a lot of weight into the wrists. To do that, use your fingers and grip the mat. All right, so I'm going to try that again. All right, find your balance. We are not doing well with balance today. There we go. Nice. All right, well, that was fun. Let's do the other side. Up, to the side, down, up, to the side, down, up, to the side, down, up, to the side, down. We're going to go now to the side, up, down, to the side, up, down, to the side, and one more, up, down. Okay, let's try this now. I am going to balance on my left arm, left leg comes up, right arm out, reach behind, grab, and we want to back bend. You want to push the foot into the hand and pull the foot with the hand. You should feel this in your quads. You should feel this in your hips, and you're doing a nice back bend here. And exhale, come down. Oh, that one was a lot better. Very good. All right. We're almost there. We're getting there, my friends. All right, the next thing I'd like to do is just a little bit of a camel pose. I'm not great at camel pose, but I'm going to stretch our quads, and it's also a back bend. So we're going to start here. Knees about hip distance apart. I like to put my hands on my butt. Nice straight spine. Elbows, those are shoulders, shoulders up, back, okay? And then what you want to do is you just want to activate your abdominals, and you're just going to tilt, pushing your hips forward, looking up, push, 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 push. Careful not to just dump into the only one part of your back, right? So here you want to activate your quads, and by activating, you're actually also going to stretch them. If you would like, you can come down and you can reach the backs of your feet. I don't feel like it today. This works. All right, counter poses are really important. We've done lots of back bends, so let's sit in child's pose for a moment. That's a really nice one for your hips as well, and it's good for your spine. And we just did a back bend, so now we want to counter with the opposite. So for here, because I have thicker thighs and a belly, the child's pose with your feet together and your thighs together and bending over and having the arms behind you is actually really hard for me. It makes me like fall onto my forehead. So I prefer the child's pose where I have my big toes touching, and then open the legs up, and then I reach forward and sink down into my child's pose here. Child's pose can be done in a lot of ways. Grab a block, put it underneath your forehead if that feels good. You can grab a bolster and just child's pose onto your bolster. There's lots of different ways to do it. I'm feeling come straight down to the floor. In child's pose, you can be active or passive. Active child's pose is where you're pushing forward with your hands and you're actively trying to sink your hips down. Cramping my foot again. And then forehead can come to the floor. And breathing into the microphone. Sorry for all the crackling. A great way to make this active, as I said, is to push forward with the hands. Right now, if I push forward with the hands, I'm going to actually bury my microphone. So my toes are together, and what I'm actually doing is I'm using my arms to push myself back. Can you see that? Here it's just like passive, and I'm just laying here, but active, I'm pushing my butt down to my heels. This is going to allow for some space in the low back, and actually it's helping those hips open up just a little bit more so that we can get into our king pigeon pose. And don't forget to breathe. All right, come on back up to tabletop. Give yourself one more nice little cat cow, my favorite. All right, we're gonna move into pigeon from tabletop. You don't have to move into pigeon from downward dog every single time you do it. Tabletop is just fine. Before I get into it, I'm actually going to grab, what's it called? A strap. So, king pigeon has a lot of moving parts. For this, I want to make sure that I have a block handy to put underneath the glute of the bent leg so that I'm not going to fall. And I want to have a strap handy just in case I can't grab my foot in the back. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. It really depends on the day. So I'm going to have my strap handy, and I am going to start with my right leg forward in pigeon. So to do this, all you're going to have to do is get into your tabletop, slide your right knee forward up to your right wrist, and then open up the foot, and then slide the left foot back. Contrary to popular belief, in pigeon, you do not have to have your shin parallel to the mat. It does not have to be 90 degrees. That's actually really, really hard on your knee. If you can do it, fantastic, go for it. I can't. It's not good for my knee, and it's not good for my sore hip. So here, this is just regular pigeon. To get myself ready for king pigeon, from regular pigeon where I'm pushing up, I'm actually going to come down into sleeping pigeon for a few breaths. Sleeping pigeon, you can come down to the elbows. You can stack your fists and rest your head. All right, you can stack your hands and rest your head, or you can come all the way down to the mat, depending on how limber you're feeling. I'm just going to stack my hands. Let gravity do the work here. Really just feel, try not to tense those glute muscles. Try not to, restrict the muscles in your back there. Let gravity do its work, opening up the hips a little bit more. If you need to, grab a block and put it underneath the glute that's
raised. And that way it'll kind of steady you a little bit. That'll help for king pigeon as well. So highly recommend putting a block there. Pigeon pose is probably my favorite pose in yoga. I remember when I started going to yoga classes, I was going to my local YMCA, and I would always be so excited when we'd move into pigeon pose because it feels just so delicious in my body. Something that I actually really, really love. So just revel. I like this pose a lot. And as always, don't forget to breathe. From here, go ahead and come back up into your pigeon.
King pigeon is, I mean, it'll take a couple of variations. I'm not in the flip your grip, put both arms up over your head king pigeon. What I am in is bend the front or bend the back leg. That's the back leg. With my, that's my left leg. I'm going to reach back with my left arm. I'm going to grab my foot, and there you go. That's one variation of king pigeon. Some other, you could reach up behind and you can use both arms. If this doesn't work for you, you can grab a strap and then pull the strap. That's easy peasy. Strap actually makes everything easy peasy, and I can't tell where it feels good to grab my foot. You definitely feel a stretch in the quad here, so you want to make sure that those are nice and open. One more breath. Exhale, we're going to release, come back down, and roll off of that block. Put it to the side, and come back into your tabletop. Hopefully that feels all right. I'm going to stretch out that right leg, even though I know it's going to go back behind me in just a second. Now for this one, I'm going to pull a strap on this side because if I can't catch my foot, I've got the strap to do it for me. So from your tabletop, you're going to slide the left knee to the left wrist, slide the right leg back, and open up the shin wherever it feels good. Again, shin does not have to be 90 degrees. Here, that's a great place to put that block. I don't know if y'all can tell, but pink is my favorite color. Pink blocks, pink and purple mat, pink yoga pants. My wedding dress was pink. Pretty great. This is not the most zen, relaxing yoga practice. This is just me teaching you how to prepare your body to get into king pigeon pose, which is so silly sometimes. All right, come down to the elbows, some blocks, head resting on hands, stacked fists, whatever feels good here. And let's let gravity do its thing on the left side. I think one of the reasons why I like pigeon so much is that my low back has always been problematic. And this really, really stretches it out for me. And since I started doing this particular pose regularly, and even as a yin pose where you sit here for 5 minutes, I've actually experienced markedly less back pain, especially in the lower back. This is my first time doing this with a microphone. I really hope that it's not super crackly and that all you hear is, I hope you don't just hear me breathing the whole time. That would be awkward and weird. And when you feel ready, let's move into king pigeon on this side. I'm going to flex the right leg. Okay? I'm going to make sure that I have a good balance on the right arm. Right leg flexed, left leg comes around, grabs the right leg, and we're stretching. Feels good. Having the block underneath your glute is really stabilizing for this particular pose. It feels really, really good. Gradually you can work your way up to taking it away, and you can come further and further up. And I know a lot of yogis will do the flip the grip thing where they reach around and they grab it. I'm definitely not there. That's okay. I don't ever have to be there. I'm still getting the benefit of this pose by doing it this way. I've got a little back bend, I've got quads nice and stretchy, and my hips are opening. And I have no pain, which feels really great. Another couple of breaths. One more. And exhale, go ahead and release. All right, roll off of that block, come back to tabletop. Stretch out that left leg for a second. Probably, yeah, needs it. Come on, there. Now, in a typical yoga session, I would end with Shavasana. This is not a typical yoga session. It's just a tutorial on how to get yourself into King Pigeon in a way that I hope is accessible and doable for you. Hope you enjoyed.